My first guest is in a little bit of a rush because he's got a little gig to do in London tonight. So I just want to ask, what's George Michael, Jimi Hendrix, Van Morrison, Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac, Hot Chocolate, Muddy Waters, Bob Marley, Eric Clapton, Little Richard, Tina Turner, Michael Caine, Quincy Jones, The Rattles, Amy Winehouse, Prince, so many others, also films like Titanic, James Bond, Die Hard, Just a Gigolo, and of course Monty Python's Life of Brian, just over 4,000 TV commercials worldwide. Got in common? What's it got in common? Well, it's hard to know where to start with my guest tonight, but for me, it was my school. For a very short time, he was one of my teachers. I'm thrilled to welcome to the show tonight the legend that is John Altman. Well, welcome, John. Thank you very much for coming in tonight.
You've said it all.
I've said it all. Well, go home then. Off you go. There's so many artists and people that you've worked with. I mean, you really are, although we know each other quite well, it's incredible what you've done over the years.
Looking back, it is extraordinary.
Yeah.
I've sort of been in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, well, you say that.
Quite a few times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, it's obviously easy, isn't it? Easy.
It's been nice. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, but I mean, anyone can do it, can't they?
Looks like it. If I can, anyone can.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's been quite an incredible career, and I'm thrilled to know you. And I just thinking back to our days when you first walked into our school. And we still don't know what you were actually teaching us, if anything. Probably nothing.
No, I'm trying to work it out. The thing was, in those days, I was doing a doctorate in English literature. And
well, it would have been English, mate.
As one would.
Yeah.
I decided that I'd get some work as a supply teacher because it paid better than being on the road with Hot Chocolate. Because if we didn't play, we didn't get paid.
But even the worst school in Britain you came to. So you got paid for that.
I got paid for it. I got paid very well for it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh. Listen, you confiscated my colour pencils, and I want to know if you still got them. No, joking. No, quite amazing. So I know we haven't got too much time tonight, but just run into a couple of things, and I'm going to ask you if you'll come back another time. We're doing, at the moment, until I get sacked, we're doing a monthly show.
I'd love to.
Come back, because there's so much to discuss with you. It'd be marvellous. But one of the things that I keep whistling when we speak is your involvement, obviously. I mean, there's so many, but your involvement with, obviously, Life of Brian and a particular song that's played over and over again. In actual fact, I was going to ask you, this particular song is played quite a lot at funerals, and I just wondered if you go to one, do you ever stand up in the middle and go thank you, or is that a bit, you can't do that, can you really?
Well, it's supposedly the most played song at funerals.
Is it?
In the UK.
Fantastic. Yes. And you've done a survey on that, no doubt.
There has been a survey done.
Brilliant.
Not by me, but
I'm sure it has been. But so how did that come about? How did the song come about?
Well, I started working with the Python team in about 73 through our friend Neil Innes.
Oh.
Who's much missed.
Yeah, God, yeah.
And I went along to play on an album called Matching Tie and Handkerchief, which in those days, pre-video, the only way you could get your hands on anything to do with Monty Python was to buy a record.
Right.
Because you couldn't, once the show had been on TV, unless they repeated it, you would never see it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So their records sold really well. And I went along to play saxophone on Matching Tie and Handkerchief. When I got there, I found they didn't need any saxophone, but they asked me would I sing and clap my hands in, I hate to say it, a Gary Glitter spoof.
Really?
And that was my first appearance with the Pythons.
God, he ruined it for me. I used to love Gary Glitter and the Glitter.
I know.
He spoilt it completely.
Terrible. Well,
yeah.
He spoilt it completely,
yeah.
But the thing then was that I became their go-to music guy, and I started doing stage shows with them. I started doing the Amnesty shows and the Rattles, and when it came to Life of Brian, they didn't have an ending for the film. So what one forgets about them is that they weren't really a team of people. They were writing pairs, and Eric Idle is a loose cannon on his own. So anybody who came up with an idea, the others would go, oh, I don't think that's great. Oh, no, I don't like that.
Oh dear.
So they were kicking around, how do we end the film? Do we kill Brian? Do we rescue him? Do we do this? Do we do that? And Eric came up with a little song idea, which he sent a cassette to me and said, I've got this idea for a song, and I think it could be a good ending. I heard it on the tape, and it was just guitar and voice. And I actually said, it might be quite fun to do a spoof Hollywood musical. And that's what we did, and then we ran with the idea.
Amazing.
And off it went.
It really was quite. It's just funny because both ends of that film are people that I know. There's Sonia Jones, a friend of ours,
yes,
who was impersonating somebody else I worked with, Dame Shirley Bassey.
Yes.
Sonia did an amazing job at that end, and then obviously your one at the end of that. Amazing song, amazing. Every time I hear it, and I hear that, that orchestration and everything you put into it in your arrangement.
Well, the nice thing for me, or one of the nice things for me, was that George Harrison produced the original single.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
And he actually produced the film and put up the money for it.
Well, tell us about that, because was it EMI that...
Well, EMI got cold feet because they thought it was a spoof on the life of Jesus.
A little bit blasphemous.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we can't put this out. This is terrible, So George came in and he said, well, I want to see the film. So he put the money up because he wanted to see it. And
they kept making mistakes here, didn't they? They did that with Sex Pistols, I believe.
Yes.
Anyway, so...
Well, George absolutely loved the song, and it was on his home jukebox forevermore.
Was it?
And whenever he saw me, he would sing bits of my arrangement. He wouldn't say hello, or how are you, or nice to see you. He'd just sing the arrangement, which was lovely.
Well, that's quite flattering.
It was a real treat,
Yeah,
But we had no idea. The whole thing was recorded in the morning.
Was it? Where was it recorded?
At Chapel's studio, now long gone, in Bond Street.
Yeah, of course.
And I did a session in the afternoon at Air Studios. I have no idea what I did. My diary, which I've kept, just says went on to Air Studios.
Yeah, isn't it funny? Because I've got diaries myself from back in. I've got a lot of diaries and I've got notes in them. And then there's some days that were blank, and I know it was something enormous.
Yeah.
I just think,
Well, it was literally, this morning I'll do that, and this afternoon I'll do something else. And had I known, of course, my whole hindsight would have been totally different.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's very, very interesting the way that song was put together. So, did you perform yourself on that song? Were you...
I conducted it, and I'm one of the whistlers.
I thought you were.
Yes.
Isn't that funny? I thought you were. I think somewhere along the line you told me you whistled on it. And
I'm one of the whistlers, yes.
God, Whistling John, fantastic.
Along with Fred Tomlinson singers. But again, I had no idea.
Well, you wouldn't, would you?
It's like three-hour session. Yeah. Mitch played the guitar intro, and off we went.
Fantastic.
Pete Van Hook is on drums.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Go on, now all these people.
I know. With all the people we grew up with.
Well, Pete, you brought him when you were at my school.
I brought Pete in.
Pete borrowed my drum kit, which I think he probably regrets to this day, because it was the worst drum kit. I bought it in pieces at a second-hand shop. So nothing fitted, it was all glued together. So I probably thought, what an idiot is this bloke?
No, I remember that session very well. But
so should we just listen to a bit of
why not?
Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. Should we get into that now? Okay. Fantastic, John. Love it. And that was you just pointed out in the break the bit that George Harrison particularly remembered and liked so much, which is the strings in there, which is amazing. It's lovely. It's just...
Well, the thing about writing comedy, particularly writing music for comedy, is you have to take it completely 100% seriously.
Yeah, I bet.
And if you send it up, it's just not funny. This is a trap that people fall into.
Is it?
Definitely.
Amazing.
And that's why, if I'm doing a comedy film, which I have done a few, I go for serious music, rather than, that's funny.
Yeah, slapping, that stuff.
Nudging the ribs.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, there's somebody else that I think, you've got to come back,
Of course.
But somebody else and a particular situation that we'd like to just chat to you about is obviously George Michael, because I do know a little bit of the story, because we've obviously spent a lot of time together, and it sort of revolves around... Well, I'll let you tell the story. It's about the Railway Arms and where you were... And so your initial association with George was next to his dad's... Explain, in northwest London here in the sunny UK, there's a area called Edgware, and in Edgware, George Michael's dad had a restaurant called Mr. Jack's, which we all knew was George Michael's.
Which we all knew well.
And next door to that was a massive pub called the Railway Arms.
Railway Hotel.
Sorry about that. Railway Hotel. And my silly band. Well, we weren't silly for those band members of mine that are listening. But in our band, we used to rehearse a bit in there, but we were, But anyway, you were in there with some.
With Pete Van Hook,
Yeah.
whose father owned the pub.
Oh, did he?
Rick Parnell, who later became the drummer of Spinal Tap.
Right.
Chaz Jankel, who wrote all the Blockheads, and I Know Garida.
Yeah.
So it was quite a band.
Yeah, amazing.
And we would rehearse, and this sort of 5-year-old kid, which I had no idea about, called George, would sit on the steps and listen to us rehearsing. And the only reason I know this is when we worked together, at one bit of downtime in the studio, he told me the story, that he used to sit and listen to us rehearse.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So years later.
later.
So if we just pick one track here that we'll talk about, which was actually Kissing a Fool.
Kissing a Fool, yeah.
Which is an amazing track. I mean, obviously he's very much missed, is George. And
Totally.
I mean, yet another. But that particular song's quite an amazing song. Where did you work on that song? Where was it? It was in the UK, I take it.
It was. I got a phone call at home, and it was, "Hello, could I speak to John? Yeah, this is he. Who's speaking, please? It's George Michael." And I just thought, somebody's having me on. It's Mitch having a laugh.
Well, you shouldn't do that because you've worked with bloody everyone.
Well,
you should be used to it by then, John.
No, it was George.
Still humble, aren't you?
It was George, which was great. And he said to me, well, he said two things which I thought were very interesting. He said, "You're the only person who can do this with me." It was his first solo album. So I thought, that's really nice. And he had heard Alison Moyet's That Old Devil Called Love, which I arranged.
Another one of yours, yeah.
And I said to him, I don't think I actually said, "Why are you calling me?" But I said, "You do realise that somebody else produced that record. It wasn't me, my production." And he said, "Oh yeah, but we know who really did all the work, don't we?" And I thought, that's really interesting that
He thought it was me.
an artist actually would point out that, so-and-so produced
Well, it's amazing
the record.
that I didn't know him at all well, but
He was so
being very detailed.
incisive, yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
And he sent me a demo, which again was him playing guitar and singing, and I wrote the chart out for the session. We got to the session, he sang live over and over and over again in the studio.
Where was the studio?
Salem West.
Oh, right. Okay.
The old Island Studios in Basing Street.
Yep.
And all he really said was, "Let's do another one. Let's do another one." There was never, "Oh, this is great. Oh, I like this.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever." But between takes, he would say, "Oh, you do a lot of commercials. Tell me about them.
Yeah.
You've been doing films. Tell me about them."
Yeah.
So I'm sort of blowing on, "Oh, what was it like working with Van Morrison?" So I'm blowing on about my life and, how I write commercials and whatever.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I went home and I had no clue whether what we'd done was to his liking or not, So I rang Steve Sidwell, another friend of ours, who's a great trumpet player and had played on all the Wham records and great arranger. And I said to Steve, "George Michael," I said, "I don't understand at all. I've been working with him all day. I've had no feedback. I don't know if he likes what I've done, if he hates it, Can you give me a clue?" And Steve said, "Well, you're back there tomorrow, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, we're doing the brass." He said, "Well, he likes it." And I said, "Well, that's it, is it?" He said, "Oh, you'd know soon enough if you didn't."
Is that right?
Because he'd just say, "It's not working,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye,"
Yeah.
So once I got that attitude, as it were, I went in the next day, we did the horns, and everything was lovely,
Yeah, it's quite...
And it's still, Faith is a great album, and it was the album of the year at the Grammys, and
yeah, amazing.
my track was sort of #1 in America, I think, and it's great to have had that association. You know?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's an amazing track.
And sadly, I never got to work with him again. I mean, I was in Island Studios, or Salem West, and somebody said, "Oh, George is in Studio 1 at the moment." And when I had a break on, I went out to see him, and the girl on the reception desk said, "Oh, you just missed him, he's left."
Oh.
And that was as close as I ever got to him again,
What a shame.
It's just a shame,
Yeah, of course. You just never know, do you?
But-
we're sometimes ships that pass in the night in this old game.
Well, very much so. And then when people sort of depart for whatever reason, you
so
have the regret.
Well, of course, because then it's pretty.
And you think, well, why didn't
final.
I just
Yeah.
have one more chance to spend some time or whatever,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
or you think, oh, I'll go to this show, and then you don't go, and then you know.
Well, you never know, but it's an
You never know.
amazing track. Like so many of your the dust that you sprinkle on.
Oh, I'm very pleased with it, obviously, and
of course.
it's one of the few that I actually play on as well. Because usually I play saxophone.
Do you? Can you play the sax? Sorry, only joking.
Well,
only joking.
a lot of people wonder about that.
No, they don't.
But what had happened was I never play on any of my film soundtracks or records or commercials, because as soon as your head goes into the mentality of performing, you're thinking about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I didn't want it to be a situation where I was deflected from what's the best thing for this track, to have a position where I was sat there going, I think I could do it better, or I'm not quite cutting this.
It's a different. You have to wear a different hat.
It's a totally different
And
hat.
it's a different. I get that.
But on the
completely.
George Michael record, and the reason for it, I mean, if we've got time, was very simple. When Alison Moyet's record came out, she had some live shows in the Top of the Pops, and there wasn't any money for any of the band. So I said, well, don't worry. I rang people round. They said, yeah, I'll do it, fine, you know, no run. And I thought, well, I can't ask the sax player on the record. I'll play sax myself. So I did. I played sax on Top of the Pops. I played on the live show.
Did you?
I then got a phone call from the guy who played on the record, who was very upset.
Oh dear.
And said, you took my gig, you know. And I said, well, I didn't, because there was no money involved. And I thought about it and thought, well, maybe if I'd have asked him, he'd have done it, but that would have meant that I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, it's tricky. But when George's record came up soon after, I thought, I'm going to have no argument about this.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to play.
Well, it's just that little delicate, little bit about politics and things you got to think that, it's amazing. But you're right to keep it kind of separate in that way. But it's what an amazing career you've had. I mean, it really is. I mean, the things that you've done, we are definitely going to get you back in soon. But
I'd love to.
But should we? Because I know we've got to let you go and get you to you've got a gig at
with Zoot Money,
Zoot
one
Money.
of the greats.
Bloody hell, amazing tonight, amazing. Should we just listen to the lovely George Michael track "Kissing a Fool"?
Kissing a Fool, sure.
Let's get ourselves into that now.
Yeah.
That's amazing, John. What an amazing song. Well done, Sunshine.
Thank you.
As a former pupil, I'm very proud of you. A very bad pupil too. Thanks
Not
so
that
much for
bad.
coming in today.
My pleasure.
We're just going to obviously say goodbye now, and you can move on. But we're going to play a song as you go. Another one of your gazillion, like mates and everything else. We're going to play a little song by Peter Green's Fleetwood Mac. Need Your Love So Bad. Obviously, there was a big thing on at the Palladium recently. But yeah, obviously you know Peter. You've known him a long time. So
long time.
Go back a long way there, don't you?
Yes,
so,
yes.
Well, we can go deeper into that when you come back.
Well, yeah. I mean, Peter and I formed a band together when he left Fleetwood Mac in 1970.
Amazing.
And the first record I ever did was with him and members of Fleetwood Mac at Saga Studios, which was Sigmund Freud's old house
Oh, blimey.
in Maresfield Road. And we all got £100, and
Did you?
we made it all up on the spot. Yeah.
Do you still got 100?
Slow blues, I've still got it. I think.
Fantastic. Dinner on you, mate.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Slow blues, fast blues, Oh, it's
Amazing.
great.
Oh, amazing
And they
days.
sold it on railway stations for 10 bob.
Good day. Amazing.
Happy
times.
days.
Right, you've got to come back.
Will do.
John, thank you so much for coming in today. I mean, I'm honoured.
Pleasure.
And I'd like everyone to put your hands together for John Altman.